Hey, welcome back, Vision fans. Ready Player Will here. Today we're talking about the element selection quest that came out for the light and some of the MR units. Now, a lot of these don't get a ton of exposure, some more than others just because of how they get used in class match, but nonetheless I wanted to come at you today and go over a really high-level review of my experience with them, using them through the stages, and then about how I use them in Stage 10 and how you can optimize some of the synergies. So, who are the non-UR light units? It's very support-heavy. It's Grace, Elshra, Fina, Marielle, Vistral, and Phoebe. There's a ton of overlap between the White Mage and Time Mage sub-jobs, Marielle being the only tank, so she's an absolute must. And honestly, of this cast, there's probably 4 musts. Grace, Elshra, Marielle, and Phoebe, in my opinion. You can kind of toss up Fina and Vistral, but I'll be honest, Fina seems to be, on paper, and even in my usage, way more efficient at competing in the stages than Vistral did, if only because she's part of the Magic cast and has a bunch of utility that he doesn't. Jumping in who they are, Marielle's the only tank. She starts with 5 initial hate, which is a fantastic way to get the battle rolling. Procs additional hate on the Spellblade sub-jump, so you have to have that equipped. Great chainer with Banish and Banish Gobblade. Fantastic magic resist as well, not only because of the ability, but she has a magic shield she can proc if she wants to. And then she can equip Helm and Armor for heavy helm, or heavy armor if you will, which adds a ton of bulk to her, so she's a great tank overall. I use her in class match all the time. She's fantastic. Elshra, my second favorite unit here, the Rune Knight sub-job, highly recommended. So not only does Banish Blade and Hazard Slash add a huge amount of DPS output, but the Light Break Rune is a great at 38% in peril, and Drain Evocation helps slash attack on the next turn, but it's also a source of health for her, where she can steal health from the enemy, essentially from the damage she does. And she also has access to Quicken and Meteor on the main job, really important things in a pinch in the fight. Grace, one of my other favorite characters, again, user in class match where applicable. She's a great white mage. So Curaga, Holy, Regen, Full Life, Asuna, all on the main job, which is awesome, that you don't have to sacrifice any sub-job slots for it. She does have Protect and Shell in the sub-job, which is really good, but there are some external sources of it. I'd rather have her personally as the Lancer or as the Green Mage, where you can use D-Shell to increase the magic potency of your teammates, or the light element chaining, which obviously helps the damage output overall. Crazy good resist too, 25% on all weapon types with 40% on the magic. Phoebe, the only X unit of the light cast. A lot of you know her from the class match. Obviously the Quicken ability and the Speed Force that she got in her X upgrades, really important things, but she also has the White Mage sub-job, which is very impactful in that it has full life access, Protect and Shell, and although no Curaga does have Cure, Curata, some of those spells to help sustain the team, but overall, the access to full life, Protect and Shell, Meteor, and some of the other Time Mage, DPS abilities are really helpful. Fina, I personally prefer her. The White Mage of Lapis, again, it's got full life, Curaga, and Regen, and although you might think it's a little overkill, being able to have anybody use it at any time is super helpful, and the Cleric sub-job also being very helpful, where Banish is a great form of magic damage in terms of how she contributes to the fight overall, and then Prolonged Staff is good for light chains and decreasing agility for the target. Finally, Dark Veil, great for the dark resist at 25%, so ton of utility to have by her. And Vistral, not a bad character. You're going to be using the Soldier sub-job a lot, though, just for the source of DPS, where he's a light element slash for those chains. Not as much utility, if any, at all, and the main job doesn't really offer a whole lot outside of more light slash attacks, so he's okay, you can beat it with him, but probably not as easy. This tips for Stage 10. I don't want to tell you how to do the stage. That's kind of the fun of it, is being able to theory craft and, strategize and replay it and do with it what you will, but just some general tips I think will help be some good goalposts for you. Use Marielle's Taunt Blade sparingly. Don't blow it all early in the fight, because there are 5 waves of enemies. You want to be able to generate hate at will later on in the fight whenever you want to take the heat off your teammates, so keep that in mind. Also be careful about TP usage and the skill usage. Because the fight is so long, you can run out of those skills very early on, particularly because if you're satisfying all the missions, one of them having to kill a group of enemies at the same time can take a little while if you screw up the positioning, so you don't want to waste those skills too early on in the fight. Definitely take advantage of the White Mage and Time Mage sub-jobs also. They overlap a ton, so being able to quicken someone, get an extra turn in for a chain, either use regen or other forms of healing, just to be able to allow people to stand in places where they want to be, and you don't have to have one healer and hopefully that you rely on them. You can have that crossover, really make your team work, and be very flexible because of it. Use debuffs where applicable as well, so the SPR down on D-Shell and the Light in Peril that Elshra has, really important for chunking down some of those bosses if you can't get by them very quickly. And obviously these aren't very hard-hitting DPS units, so being able to imperil either of those stats goes a long way to increasing the team damage overall. And finally, I would say gear for magic resist, obviously, but I also do like the single target resistance as well. Even though the bosses do spam large AoEs, like I was mentioning earlier, when you're trying to get enemies to group up some of those adds, you will often have times where they start to chain some of their attacks, and since you're not using Marielle's Taunt Blade that often early in the fight, you're going to probably lose some hate, and the last thing you want is have someone die because of the dark chain. So single unit is definitely a way to go here, and then obviously take advantage of the magic light vision cards. The best overall, Bahamut by far, but Trousseau, Science of Shadow, Red Chocobo, also some really great contributors. Solidus isn't bad, it gives you the HP, but the slash damage isn't really a thing in these stages, and same thing for Iron Giant can be said, even though he does help you offensively potentially. The two that are non-light that I find high impact are Fenrir, and although it is an attack-oriented card, getting a 20% magic resist to the party is very, very useful, and Black Rose is awesome as well, not only for the agility boost to the party, but it does give whoever's wielding it, if applicable, the ability to use that large AoE down, and I gave it to Phoebe personally. So as we were talking about earlier, as you run out of abilities, not only does this give you an extra 2 abilities to use, but it's 2 that could potentially satisfy that condition of killing enemies at the same time, so really great card for that purpose. That's it overall. Good luck doing the stage. Hopefully you enjoy the new release. I had a lot of fun doing it. I can't wait for the next one. Definitely starting today to gear up my Earth units to get ready, but let me know what you guys found out for strategies and what you did to clear the stage. So I'll talk to y'all soon. Thanks everyone.